Hello and thanks for joining us on TVC News at 1. We begin this hour with the security situation in the country and efforts by security agents to contain the situation. In Katsina State, several terrorists have reached their early graves and others severely injured after police officers in the state repelled them in Wapa village of Kurufi local government area. According to police authorities in the state, the incident occurred after a distress call was received that terrorists numbering 24 on motorbikes shooting sporadically attacked the village and kidnapped the duo of Aminu Wapa and Wada Saleh. Upon receipt of the information, the State Police Command deployed its tactical teams to the area and engaged the hoodlums in a fierce gun duel. The police spokesman in the state, Gambo Isah, in a statement explained that a team of police officers is still combing the area with a view to arresting the wounded terrorists and recovering their bodies. The situation was the same in Kaduna as military troops of Operation Forest Sanity dislodged a suspected terrorist camp belonging to a notorious bandit, Lawal Kwaba, in a forest in Chinkun local council area. Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arua, who made this known, also revealed that some batteries and 27 bags of fertilizer were recovered. Security experts suspect the recovered items are meant to be used to manufacture improvised explosive devices, considering recent links with Boko Haram insurgents. The commissioner further revealed that the bandits took to their heels on sighting the troops, but some arrests were made. In Oyo State, residents of Oluseyi, Ajogbo, and Omilabu communities in Ibadan are accusing the 2 Division of the Nigerian Army of damaging their property with bullets during shooting exercise. The affected residents, in a Save Our Soul message to relevant authorities, said their lives are no longer safe. And Olaido Yewole tells us more.
The 2 Division Nigerian Army, popularly known as Odogbo Barracks in Ibadan, is surrounded by several communities. The communities are Omilabu, Oluseyi, Ajogbo, and few others. Residents in these areas say for over 15 years now, they have been living in fear of being hit by stray bullets, as some residents had to abandon their houses to stay alive. We walked around the community and observed bullets lodged in walls and burglar proofs, while the windscreen of some vehicles got damaged, including roofs and windows. Residents of Omilabu, Ajogbo, Oluseyi communities say they can no longer sleep with their 2 eyes closed. They say the environment is now becoming a war zone for them. Kemi Oyewole is a resident of the community. She said her sick husband narrowly escaped death as a part of his bed was hit by bullets.
The same thing on Friday. But I'm so happy, a day before yesterday, the place where my husband lied down, we went to hospital for check-up. As we come now, I can't see the ceiling don't break. Now 5 ceiling don't break inside room. I saw 3 blades. I don't see the 2.
Okay, so is it the place where your husband usually sleeps?
Yes, now that place they sleep.
A father of 3, Peter Okoma, says his wife and little baby were in the sitting room when they heard the sound of bullets hit their roof.
My daughter was crawling like this, and she was at this very point when this one pierced the roofing sheet, hit the POP, and you can see this.
I spoke with one of the community leaders who said several efforts have been made by members of the community to put the situation under control, but to no avail.
A lot of that effort culminated into the fencing of the barrack, and people had been enjoying peace ever since then, until 2017, precisely Monday, 10th July, when they started without any notice, and stray bullets were coming out, to the extent that on Wednesday of that same week, a bullet from the training ground hit a pupil in the classroom in a nursery primary school.
With this accusation, the residents claim they sent a letter of appeal to the Army Authority, but are yet to get a response to that regard. Also, attempts by TVC News to speak with the authorities of the 2 Division Nigerian Army for their own side of the story proved abortive, as calls and messages were not returned. Olaide Oyewole, TVC News, Ibadan.
And today is World Humanitarian Day. This year's commemoration builds on this metaphor of collective endeavor to grow global appreciation for humanitarian work. The 2022 campaign shines light on the thousands of volunteers, professionals, and crisis-affected people who deliver urgent health care, shelter, food, protection, water, and much more. Now, for these years, World Humanitarian Day, stakeholders will use digital art to tell the stories of people in need and those who help them. At the center of the campaign is a series of beautifully illustrated aid worker profiles that show the breadth and depth of humanitarian work and collectively symbolize the wider humanitarian village. To meet the needs of those affected by conflict in all parts of the country so as to give them a sense of belonging. He spoke during a walking visit to Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, to commemorate this year's World Humanitarian Day. TVC News' Jesse Tafida reports.
This is the third visit by President Muhammadu Buhari in 1 year after that of the June 17th and 23rd December in 2021. This time around, the president is visiting the state to unveil a spatial food distribution to families displaced by Boko Haram insurgency. This gesture is in commemoration of the 2022 World Humanitarian Day with its theme, It Takes a Village, with special focus on survivors of conflicts.
As a government, we will continue to support those most in need for as long as it takes, while working closely with development partners to improve the resilience of vulnerable populations. I hope to see more of our leaders' commitment.
The ministry and its staff, together with our stakeholders and the entire humanitarian community, will all work assiduously and tirelessly to ensure that the vision you had for the coordination and efficient management of humanitarian affairs, disaster management, and social development is realized.
Borno State appreciates the international community, the development partners, and all international and national non-governmental organizations who have been here helping us and supporting the effort to give people hope in the midst of the great misery brought about by the insurgency.
Mr. President, we all desperately want to see an end to this terrible human-made crisis. We will continue to advocate for a safe and secure operational environment.
Away from the Humanitarian Day commemoration, President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurated some infrastructural projects in Maiduguri. The Teachers' Quarters Bulumkutu, which comprised of 24 units of furnished two-bedroom flats in 6 blocks of story building, was the first to be commissioned. Another 500 houses built by the federal government in Malay community was also inaugurated by the president to fast-track the resettlement drive of the state government. Jesse Tafida, TVC News, Maiduguri.
And Representative UNICEF Nigeria, Peter Hawkins, joins us virtually from Maiduguri for more of the World Humanitarian Day. Good to have you join us.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. In the wake of the Boko Haram insurgency, we saw the level of displacement, especially in Borno. But it does seem like we haven't seen that level of attacks coming from the Boko Haram sect, but we've seen attacks from bandits. So talk to us about how serious the humanitarian crisis in Nigeria is today and what level of displacement you are witnessing.
Well, look, all humanitarian situations are a crisis, and they affect women and children more than any other. Here in Borno and state, the situation has fluctuated over the years. If we look at compare Borno in 2015 to today, there's been incredible improvement in that. Here in Maiduguri, shops are open, schools are open, flights come in every day, people trade, children are able to learn, people have jobs and be able to move forward. However, there are 1.2 million people who are inaccessible within the province. There are also 850,000 who are displaced throughout the northeast. And it's for them that I think today, Humanitarian Day, International Humanitarian Day, marks a special recognition that our response to them, both the government and the international community's response, one, has to step up, two, has to continue over the next few years, but three, has to focus on some of the real tangible issues that children and women are faced with every day. And that is about their own protection and their own ability to thrive and be able to develop on their own. But it's their protection at the moment that is of enormous concern.
You are in Borno, and that's the northeast of the country, and that's where we have majorly the Boko Haram insurgency. But in the northwest, we are witnessing, of course, the bandit attack, who have also now been designated terrorists. But I want to understand what sort of reports you're getting in terms of displacements in the northwest.
I think you're right. The northeast is about the insurgency, and the northwest is about a multiple of different things. I was in the northwest myself only last week. The situation there is one of failure of development, two, repeated attacks by bandits, as you said, but also the issue of climate change, which has created a sort of reduction in livelihoods, if I may call it that. The impact on all of this is, one, we're seeing nutritional levels of 17.95% amongst the young children. This is of enormous concern. What we have to do is revitalize the primary healthcare centers, ensure that they deliver services at one stop, so nutrition, immunization, and maternal care. And it's the nutrition side that is of enormous concern at the moment. 17.9% in any other situation would be considered a real emergency. The stunting rates are up to 42%. That means that the cognitive and physical development of young children is going to be constrained throughout their life. And it's all of these sort of things that we need to address with a high degree of urgency and importance.
I wish I could talk with you about the president's statement, but I'm told, unfortunately, my time is up. Thank you so much for talking to us, Peter Hawkins.
Thank you very much indeed.
And several Nigerians are now being stranded and allegedly abandoned by the Nigerian embassy stationed in the Middle East country. Now, some of them are victims of human trafficking who escaped from their traffickers and are now living in fear. According to them, embassy officials have allegedly refused to pick their calls or respond to messages on how the Dubai incident is unfolding and have refused to visit the holding facility. Now, we have more details in this report.
TVC News exclusively spoke with one of the stranded Nigerians who told us that most of them were trafficked. She narrated how they escaped when those who brought them into the country made life miserable for them through different shapes of exploitation. She admitted that the authorities had been kind by giving them shelter and food, but their hope of returning to the country has been frustrated by the officials of the Nigerian embassy in the United Arab Emirates.
So we look for a way to escape to Terminal 2. So from there, people were much. And in that place, in that Terminal 2, people were collapsing, other stuff. So they have to take us to one place here. The place just looked like a prison. I don't know what they call the place. They took us here, and we are staying here. They give us food, morning and evening. They give us food, they feed us. So now they said our embassy must come see us from this UAE. Though they tell us it's a free ticket to go back home, we all are very happy. Most of the guests here, we are paying guests. We are very much, because the person that we are under is maltreating us too much, and we cannot go back. Now we have escaped from them.
We are calling on President Muhammadu Buhari to please help us, Nigeria. We are in Dubai.
She told TVC News that hundreds of trafficked persons of different nationalities were brought into the facility about 1 week ago. But now, most of the people left are Nigerians.
Other embassy, like all this Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, their embassy that is in UAE, I've already come to see them. But Nigeria embassy, we have been calling them, calling. no response. They did not pick our call, nothing else. We have not heard from them. If we ask the CIDs, how about our movement? How are they preparing our movement? They will say they are waiting for our embassy.
Efforts to reach the embassy officials through the phone numbers obtained from the girls and foreign affairs journalists were unsuccessful at the time. In the meantime, every passing day makes the necessity to return home quite pressing for the girls. But that can only happen if the officials at the embassy live up to their responsibility of protecting the interest of Nigeria and Nigerians within their jurisdiction.
Education matters now. The federal government says it has rejected the request of the Academic Staff Union of Universities to pay their salaries for the period they were on strike as a condition to call off the 6-month-old strike. The Education Minister revealed this at the 47th session of the State House ministerial briefing organized by the Presidential Communications Team at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. And TVC News State House correspondent Femi Akonde reports.
The Minister of Education was here to give his scorecard and reel out achievements of his ministry under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. He says so far the federal government has spent more than 6 trillion naira on capital and recurrent expenditure in the last 7 years. This, he says, makes President Muhammadu Buhari the only one in Nigeria's history to have invested the most in education. But it appears the current realities in the sector outweighs the lofty achievements recorded under the leadership of the Minister of Education. Students of government-owned tertiary institutions are not in school because university lecturers are at loggerheads with the federal government.
Unions in the tertiary education in the country, especially the Academic Staff Union of Universities, have engaged in recurring and avoidable strikes that have crippled the university system.
This strike that started on the 14th of February is the 5th time university lecturers will down tools in the last 7 years. Both the federal government and striking lecturers have been heavily criticized for their failure to find a middle ground. Now the Minister of Education says the federal government has outrightly rejected a request by ASUU to be paid salaries for the period they were out of work as a condition to call off the strike.
I tell you, within the next 1 week, these 5 unions will call off the strike. But I cannot say the same for us because, and let me just tell you what they are asking is, they can accept this if the federal government will agree to pay the salary for the month they have not worked. And I told them the federal government will not.
A report by UNICEF puts the number of children without access to education at 18.5 million, and 60% of this number are girls. But the federal government faults these statistics and insists there is a huge drop in the number of out-of-school children due to an increased enrollment facilitated by the Better Education Service Delivery for All program.
May I inform you that we have further recorded impressive enrollment in the last 1 year, especially in some of the frontline states.
But the Minister of Education is hopeful that soon the impasse between striking lecturers and the federal government will be resolved. He says the lecturers should be held responsible for compensating the students for the academic time lost during the strike. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
And still on education matters, Niger State Governor Abubakar Sani Bello says he is committed to utilizing available resources to improve the quality of education at all levels in the state. The governor stated this after inspecting the ongoing renovation of Ahmadu Bahago Secondary School in Minna under the Whole School Development Approach Program. And Chinemi Bami reports.
The Jos Main Market, also known as the Terminus Market, was an ultra-modern facility believed to be one of the largest indoor markets in West Africa. It was constructed in 1975 by the Joseph Gomwok military government of the old Benue Plateau State. The market was razed by a mysterious fire, reducing the building to nothing more than rubble, despite 2 days of intense efforts put in by the state firefighters in 2002. An attempt to rebuild the market by past administrations have not succeeded for several reasons. Governor Simon Lalong's recent move to rebuild the bond market has generated a mixed reactions from stakeholders in the state. Many have vehemently rejected the idea.
The whole school approach is an initiative of the Sani Bello-led government to improve the infrastructure of public schools in the state in order to provide a conducive learning and teaching environment for students and teachers. The governor is here to inspect the level of work done so far in the renovation of the Ahmadu Bahago Secondary School, one of the missionary schools taken over by the government. The renovation of this school is under the second phase of the program and it cost over 427 million naira.
Here we have two blocks of 8 classrooms.
Governor Bello expresses satisfaction with the level of work done thus far. He noted that some of the schools in the state have not undergone renovation for over 40 years and pledges that his administration will not allow schools to collapse. He says fixing the education sector is a long-term project, and if adequate attention had been given to education in the state since the return to democratic government, schools wouldn't have witnessed this level of deterioration.
I just hope he's able to finish on time, and I think he will finish in record time. So most of the roofs have been installed, but I think I'll have to come back again in a few weeks to see once they start painting, so that I'll see the finish, what it would look like. But so far so good. The work is commendable, so I'm glad eventually we have started rebuilding the whole school, because we're rebuilding it completely, and hopefully it would provide for a conducive environment for the students and teachers.
This is the initiative of this government for whole school approach. We had 9, 6 are completely finished, and we have 3 that are actually ongoing, and this is about the 10th one we took from the scratch last year. So this is part of the phases, and we'll go into technical schools very soon. This present one is the only one in Mina, but we have 3 ongoing ones across the senatorial zones.
Governor Bello also noted that despite the limited resources, education will be given priority and should be continuous from one administration to the other, as governance is a continuous process.
And welcome back. Let's turn attention now to Plateau State, where some stakeholders in Jos North Council area have unanimously supported the state government's decision to rebuild the burnt Jos Main Market. But this development has generated controversy among residents, especially with the state government's decision to grant Jais Bank the license to rebuild the market. And TVC News Plateau correspondent Funam Joshua reports.
The Jos Main Market, also known as the Terminus Market, was an ultra-modern facility believed to be one of the largest Indo markets in West Africa. It was constructed in 1975 by the Joseph Gomwog military government of the old Benue Plateau State. The market was razed by a mysterious fire, reducing the building to nothing more than rubble, despite 2 days of intense efforts put in by the state firefighters in 2002. An attempt to rebuild the market by past administrations have not succeeded for several reasons. Governor Simon Lalong's recent move to rebuild the bond market has generated a mixed reactions from stakeholders in the state. Many have vehemently rejected the idea of the state government giving Jais Bank the contract to rebuild the facility on the agreed terms and conditions. The state government had to back down following the uproar and has now mandated a consultative meeting across the 17 council areas of the state for stakeholders to meet and deliberate on a way forward on the issue. While the consultation is ongoing, the Plateau Concerned Youth Group has taken it upon itself to stage a peaceful protest in support of the state government's decision to rebuild the market.
We, the Plateau, use our market to come back to life. We don't care who will bring the market to life. All we want is our market to come back to life.
This town hall meeting is organized by stakeholders in Jos North Council area over the trending issue. After hours of deliberations, the stakeholders then unanimously come to a conclusion that they are fully in support of the state government to proceed with construction of the market.
We, the people of Jos North, are wholly and fully in support of the laudable move and efforts of the administration to rebuild Jos Main Market, and this is the desire of our collective aspiration of the people.
So we dearly want the market back, and we will do everything to support the government so that this dream will be actualized.
We are very much support. Let His Excellency rebuild the market.
The fate of the Jos Main Market will be determined by the outcome of the various consultative meetings that is ongoing across the 17 council areas of the state. But for stakeholders in Jos North Council area where the market is located, they've agreed that the governor should continue with the building of the bond market. From Joshua, TVC News, Jos.
The first edition of an award to encourage innovations from young Nigerians will be launched on the 31st of August in celebration of the 70th birthday of the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, Matthew Hassan Kukah. Tagged the Kukah Prize Award for Young Innovators, it seeks to promote modern trends in resolving the challenges that affect the youth in society through innovations. Now, Kemi Balogun has details.
In the midst of a declining standard of living caused by several economical challenges, African youths are burdened with the task of surviving in hard times brought upon them by the high level of underdevelopment and other challenges confronting the continent. The hope is that innovations in technology can help to change this through encouraging young minds whose creative technological solutions can have the potential of bringing positive growth within communities.
Our youths are still trapped in the backwaters of a forlorn hope. But we also accept the fact that the youthful spirit of standing beyond the boundaries of despair holds promise for a new day in Africa. Today, technology is not a profession, but an enabler. It finds application in farming, commerce, automobiles, just name it, everywhere.
The development we see in the West is because of innovation and creativity and the energy of young people around globally.
The Kukah Prize Award for Young Innovators is seeking to open the platform to celebrate outstanding innovative minds of Nigerian and African descent in the field of technology.
We are focusing on young Africans who have developed certain things, certain skills, certain ideas, startups, you might say, that are truly useful.
This award attempts to honor exceptionally brilliant young minds dedicated to the development of their countries in resolving their immediate problems.
In 2020, youth unemployment rates reached an all-time high of more than 53% in the fourth quarter of the year. These experts believe that with innovations like this, youths across the African continent will be engaged meaningfully, helping to improve development. Kemi Balogun, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, thank you for staying with us. We are tracking the biggest news stories in the world of business. Let's get started with the aviation space. As global airlines regulator, that's the International Air Transport Association, has criticized the Nigerian government for holding over $464 million belonging to the foreign carriers. The global body says the unfair practice by the federal government has prompted Emirates Airlines to stop flying into Nigeria effective from September 1, 2022. This was revealed in a statement signed by the IATA's Regional Vice President for Africa and Middle East, Mr. Camille Alawad Hilt. The carrier cited ongoing difficulties in repatriating trapped funds by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And Nigeria's digital currency, the e-Naira, has seen transactions valued at 4 billion naira since its launch by the Central Bank of Nigeria. That's the CBN last year. The platform has also has to see 850,000 downloads with 270,000 active wallets. TVC's Lara Folayo has more of this report.
The launch of the e-Naira in Nigeria was a strategic effort aimed at complementing the various diversification and digitization initiatives of government. Since its introduction last year, the volume of transactions seen by the digital platform has exceeded 200,000 with a value of 4 billion naira. The e-Naira has also seen 840,000 downloads with 270,000 active wallets. This comprises of over 252,000 consumer wallets and 17,000 merchant wallets.
The launch of e-Naira was timely and strategic in complementing the various diversification and digitization initiatives of the federal government, including the launch of the Nigeria Digital Economy Policy and Strategy.
The second phase of the project has now resumed with a target of driving financial inclusion by getting the country's unbanked and underserved users to leverage offline channels. The focus at this stage is to absorb 8 million active users into the e-Naira digital space, and the Apex Bank says this is based on estimations using the diffusion of innovation model.
The e-Naira platform possesses an innovation layer for products and services to be built with the aim of enhancing Nigeria's participation in the digital economy and promoting further development of a burgeoning fintech ecosystem.
To further promote the adoption of the e-Naira in the country, the CBN partnered the fintech industry to help bring about innovative products that would support the digital currency. 10 of the 5,000 applications received from the public on driving the e-Naira's use through various innovations have now been shortlisted.
With this, we think there's going to be a lot more new ideas that will create jobs, that will create employment, and bring in values into our financial services. From over 5,000 applications, this number has been trimmed down to 20.
The Central Bank says the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System NIBS platform can now be used to make transfers of the e-Naira across banks. The Apex Bank hopes to use the digital currency platform as a means of charting the future of the Nigerian currency while deepening the payment system. Lara Folayo, TVC News, Abuja.
And in other stories now, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, says the federal government has now proposed a new date to end payments on under recovery between the landing cost and regulated pump price of PMS. Now, speaking at a meeting with members of the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Oil and Gas, the minister noted that the subsidy regime is no longer sustainable and might force the government to borrow more in 2023. According to the finance minister, the government is only planning for payments of subsidy for only half of next year, as contained in the 2023-2025 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper, adding that withdrawals from the Consolidated Revenue Fund and the excess accrued account was for payments to oil marketers under the subsidy regime. On the international scene, Asian shares were left in limbo today, while the US dollar made all the running as recession clouds gathered over Europe and highlighted the relative outperformance of the US economy. Now, MSCI's broadcast index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan is 0.3%, to be down 1.1% on the week. Now, Chinese blue chips were flat, while South Korea lost 0.5%. Japan's Nikkei fared better, with a 0.3% gain due in part to a renewed slide. The S&P 500 futures is 0.1%, and were little changed on the week, having repeatedly failed to clear the 200-day moving average, while Nasdaq futures slipped 0.2%. Euro Stoxx 50 futures dipped 0.1%, while FTSE futures edged up to 0.2%. Well, let's stay in Asia for a moment, as China is widely expected to lower its benchmark lending rate on Monday, the 22nd August 2022, with a vast majority of participants predicting a deeper cut to the mortgage reference to lift the ailing property sector and the overall economy. The notable dovish tilt in PBOC's monetary policy stance came after a slew of key gauges, including credit lending data and activity indicators, show the economy unexpectedly slowed in July. According to reports, the loan prime rate, which banks normally charge their best clients, is set by 18 designated commercial banks who submit proposed rates to the People's Bank of China. Meanwhile, the market's consensus of LPR cuts this month comes as the bank earlier this week unexpectedly lowered two key interest rates for the second time this year to try to revive credit demand in the COVID-19 hit economy. But still on the international scene, Taiwan's export orders likely grew for a third consecutive month in July, but less than half the pace of the previous month as global demand cools. That's according to the latest foreign trade reports from Taiwan Statistics Office. Now, according to the report, the island's export orders, a bellwether of global technology demand, unexpectedly fell for the first time in 2 years in April, as orders shrank 5.5% from a year earlier to $51.9 billion, taking a larger than expected hit from COVID-19 lockdowns in China and broader global supply chain disruptions. The report also shows that trade exports returned to growth in May and June, as orders went up 9.5% from a year earlier to $58.83 billion. The government has predicted July orders to be between 0.4% and 3.1% higher than the year before. Meanwhile, oil prices on the international market slipped today after 2 days' gains as market participants weighed worries about a global economic slowdown, which would dampen fuel demand against expectations of tighter supplies towards the year end. Now, U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude recorded a price dip of 0.77% to hit $89.80 per barrel. Now, Brent crude now sells at $95.91 per barrel, registering a downward price margin of 0.70%. Now, Bonny Light's trading value is still static at $118.10 per barrel, recording a price drop of 3.25%. For the OPEC basket, now crude oil dealers offer $95.73 per barrel with a price decline of 1.75%.